We begin today the Gemara on Daf Zayin Amud Beis, 9 lines from the bottom of the Amud. So this is a Gemara that's discussing Kidushin Kesef, and we had before in the Gemara various halachas regarding being Mekadesh Isha with Kesef. The Gemara here continues with another story regarding this Kidushin. Ahu Gavra, there was an individual, the Aktish B'Shiroi, that was Mekadesh's wife. How? He gave her a silk garment. So Rabbi says about this, Lo tzrich shuma. It doesn't have to be valued properly, that she should know what the value of this silk garment is. Rav Yosef Omar, however, Rav Yosef says, tzrich shuma. No, she has to know exactly before. You have to bring experts that know its value and to tell her what the value is. So the Gemara explains, if the case over here is that he tells her, I'm giving you this silk garment, but he's making it clear to her that he's being Mekadesh her with it, no matter what its value is. So then, so there's no argument over here that it's not necessary to have it evaluated by an expert in advance, because he told her, I'm being Mekadesh you no matter what its value is. If he tells her clearly that here, I'm being Mekadesh you with this silk garment and it's worth 50 zuz, or whatever, 50 dinar. And then it turns out that she evaluates it after she gets it, and it doesn't have that value. So then, of course, she's not going to be married. Holy shavu. It doesn't have the value he told her that it has. So in both of these cases, there's no machlokes between Rabbi and Rav Yosef. Ki pligi, when is the argument between Rabbi and Rav Yosef? The Oma Chamshin, he tells her here, I'm being Mekadesh you with this silk garment which is worth Chamshin, 50 coins, B'shava Chamshin. And in the end, it turns out that it's true. It's worth Chamshin. So now, what's the machlokes here? Rabbi says it's not necessary to have it evaluated by an expert in advance, because it turns out it's worth 50, and she relies on what the husband says, and therefore she completely consents to this marriage. Rav Yosef Amar, however, Rav Yosef argues. Rav Yosef says, no, it's going to have to be evaluated before the Kidushin, because kivin the itzel loy b'kiyah b'shuma, because a woman, she doesn't deal with these kind of things, and she doesn't have the understanding of whether it does have the value or not. When she gets this garment, and the husband tells her, oh, this silk garment is an expensive piece, it's worth chamshin, 50. And she thinks to herself, maybe it is worth 50, maybe it's not worth 50, so she's not really relying on this. So therefore, she never really properly gave her consent for this marriage here. So therefore, it has to be evaluated by an expert in advance. But now there's another version to this machlokes of Rabbi and Rav Yosef regarding this silk garment that said as follows. Even if the husband clearly said to her that I'm being Mekadesh you with this garment, and he tells her, and no matter what the value is, still there's this place to say that you would have to evaluate it by an expert in advance. Rav Yosef Amar, so Rav Yosef says, because Shaveh Kesef, Hareyu Kesef. The source of the concept of Kidushin, we learn it out from Kiika Chishisha, Kicha from Zdei Ephraim. If you remember, we learned in the beginning of the Masechta. And we learned that you can be Mekadesh Isha with Kesef, money, actual money. So now, why could you be Mekadesh Isha with Shaveh Kesef, with any other object that has value of money? Only because Shaveh Kesef is like Kesef. So therefore, says Rav Yosef, we have to have the Shaveh Kesef to actually be just like the Kesef itself. Ma Kesef the Kaya, it's just like when you Mekadesh someone with money. So the money is the value of it is clear. It's set. It's $1. It's 2. It's 3. Whatever it is, it's set. Av Shaveh Kesef nami the kayitz. So too Shaveh Kesef as well. When you mekadesh isha, it also has to be kayitz. It has to be a set price that's known before you mekadesh her. So even though he made it clear to her that I'm being mekadesh you with a koldu, no matter what its value is, but nevertheless it has to be evaluated by an expert that it should be clear what that value is. Rashi brings, we'll see from the continuation of the Gemara, it's learned out from the Lashon of Yashiv. That's where the source of Shaveh Kesef is, but it has to be just like Kesef. So Rav Yosef, so this is the Chiddush of Rav Yosef, which obviously Rabbi disagreed with this. Rabbi held that Shaveh Kesef, you can be Mekadesh Isha with it, and it does not have to be similar to Kesef, and as long as it has the value of a Shaveh Pruta, it's good. She doesn't have to know the exact set amount, just like Kesef. So now, Rav Yosef, what's my source to say that Shaveh Kesef has to be set just like Kesef? The Tanya, because it says in the Braisa regarding acquiring an Eved Ivri. One of the ways to acquire an Eved Ivri is also with Kesef. And it says in the Pasuk, Mi Kesef Miknosai. The Kesef Unikna, it can be acquired with Kesef, But ve'ein nikne b'tvua v'kelim. You can't acquire him by paying for him with tvua, with produce, or with tvua, grain, or kelim, using any vessels to pay him with this. That's what the Brisa says. So now what is the Brisa saying here? Hi, tvua v'kelim heichidami. What does it mean that if you don't have cash to pay, money to pay, so you can't buy him with tvua and kelim? If it's saying that you can't use tvua or kelim, which is basically shava kesef, things that are the value of kesef, to buy him with this, but why not? We know that we learn out by Nevedivri, it says Yoshiv Geulasai Omer Achmana. This is also by a Nevedivri, where it's actually speaking about redeeming him. If he wants to be redeemed from his master, so over there, from the term Yoshiv Geulasai, this term Yoshiv is an extra word, and you learn out from there, L'Rabbis Shava Kesef Kekesef, that he can redeem himself not only by paying his master money, kesef, but also by paying even the value of money. If he doesn't have money, he can pay shavek kesef as well to redeem himself. So from this we understand, Rashi says, if he could redeem himself with shavek kesef, he could also be acquired by his master with shavek kesef. So when the Brisa here says that he cannot be acquired with tvua or kalim, it can't mean literally that you can't use these things that have value of kesef to acquire him. So now, and if when the Brisa says you can't acquire him with tvua and kalim, it means tvua and kalim that are very cheap. They don't even have the value of the minimum of a shava pruta. That's why it doesn't work. So ma'yer you tvua v'kalim. So then why would the Brisa say that you can't acquire him with tvua or kalim? I feel a kesef nami. Even if you actually have something of mamish kesef, but it's such a cheap coin that it doesn't even have the value, the minimum value of shava pruta, it also shouldn't work. So Elalav, this is here Rav Yosef's source. It says Rav Yosef, you know what the pshat in this Brisa is? The Espu Shava Pruta. The Tvua and Kalim are valued in value of a Shava Pruta. But the Kivin the Loikaitzi Loi. The Brisa is saying is that if the value of it wasn't clearly evaluated before and it doesn't have that set value that we know that an expert evaluated it, like Kesef, which has a set value, you can't buy an Evedivri with this. So Rav Yosef holds it the same as with Kidushin. It's not enough that it has the value, but it has to be kayit. You have to know the value exactly of what it is before you want to use it for the Kidushin. Now, the other opinion over here, which is Rabbe, that disagrees with Rav Yosef, so how does he understand the pshat in this Brisa? So he learns the pshat over here is as follows. Hachi ka'amar. B'toiras kesef unikne, that you can use tvua and kalim if you're being mekadesher with them, and just like money, that instead of it being money, it's only the value of money, so you're being mekadesher with the kinyan of kesef, so then this kinyan works for the avidivri and by Kidushin as well. But ve'ei nikne b'toiras tvua v'kalim. But if the kinyan that you're doing here is not the kinyan of kesef, you're using tvua and kalim for a different type of kinyan. And what is that? The mai ninu chalipin. If you want to use it for the kinyan of chalipin, as we learned before, the kinyan of chalipin is when the buyer, usually kinyan chalipin is called kinyan suda because you take just a handkerchief or a yarmulke or a gartel and you give it to the seller and he picks it up, and in exchange, whatever object he's selling you gets sold to you. That's the kinyan of chalipin. So what it's saying over here is that when you come to acquire an evidivri, and the same is regarding a isha, as we learned before, you can't be kaina with the kinyan of chalipin. Even though chalipin is a kinyan that works usually for everything, for metaltalin, for karka, but here by an avidivri it doesn't work with chalipin. That's what the Brisa meant to say. But the Gemara asks on this pshat doesn't work according to everyone. Because Rav Nachman the Amar, Rav Nachman's opinion is, peiris loy avdi chalipin. You can't use fruits, produce, or over here, grain. You can't use this for chalipin. Chalipin has to be some kind of an object. It doesn't even have to have a value of a shava pruta. Can mention the gartel, a yarmulke, or a handkerchief, whatever it is, but not food. So over here in this Brisa it says tvua and kalim. So it can't be talking about this kinyan of chalipin. So what other pshat could we say here in the Brisa, not like Rav Yosef? Ella says the Gemara, going back to what the Gemara suggested before, lo'ilam, the last bush shava pruta. What the Brisa is coming to say is you have tvua and you have kalim that don't even have the value of a shava pruta, and that's what it's coming to say that the kinyan won't work. Now, what's the chiddush? If it doesn't have the value of a pruta, why would I think it works? The ka'amret, this that you asked, my area tvua v'kalim. So why is it saying here that only tvua and kalim doesn't work? I feel a kesef nami. It's not only with tvua and kalim. Even if you have actual money, but it doesn't have the minimum value of a shava pruta, it shouldn't work. So the Gemara explains, you're right, but loy mibaya kalma. This Brisa is saying something which is a chiddush. Needless to say money. It's saying a chiddush regarding tvua and kalim. What's that? Needless to say, when it comes to actual coins, money, the Shava Pruta in, if as the minimum value of a Pruta shall be Mekadeshes, and and if not, she will not. Or over here, regarding the kinyan of an Evedivri, if there's no Shava Pruta, then that won't be a kinyan. Avol Tvua v'Kalim, but when it comes to Tvua and Kalim, which are, the Tvua is produce that you can eat from it something, or Kalim, it's a vessel that could be used for something, so maybe I would say, Midin Mekarva Hana Asayu, because there's a certain benefit or use that you have out of it, Gama Makti Nafshe. So maybe this Eved Ivri will be sold, he will be ready to be sold for this item, even though it doesn't really have the value of a Shava Pruta, but it's still something that has a use to it, and it has immediate benefit to it. So maybe here it does not have to be a Shava Pruta. Kamash Malon, that's why the Braisa is learning out from the word mikesef miknasai, that even though it has a certain advantage over kesef itself, that's not a shava pruta because of its use, but it still doesn't work unless it has that minimum value of a shava pruta. Tvua and kelim, yeah. If it's something that's very tiny, a little pin. You have a little pin that's a keli, yeah? But this little pin is worth 3 cents, which is not the minimum value of a shava pruta, for example. Okay, now the Gemara says, so this raya Rav Yosef brings from the Braisa is not a clear raya. It can be learned in 2 ways. The Gemara here brings another source that Rav Yosef brought to his opinion. Omer Rav Yosef, so Rav Yosef said, Minah, what's my source for the halacha that I said that when you use Shava Kesef, it has to be a set value, just like Kesef itself. The Tanya, because we learned in a Braisa regarding the mitzvah of Pidyon Ben. Egel zel Pidyon Beni. Person tells the Kayin, he's not giving him the 5 coins, the Chomish slime that the Torah says, but instead he's giving a calf, a behemah, for the Pidyon Aben. Or he says, Tal zel Pidyon Beni. Here, I'm giving you this garment in that value for Pidyon Aben. Lo yo maklum. So he said nothing. There is no Pidyon Aben here. Then the Braisa continues. But if he said, Egel zeh b'chomesh slom lepidyon b'ni, if he says, I'm giving you this calf, and he spells out that this calf has the value of 5 slime, and this should be for the Pidyon Aben, or talazu b'chomesh sloim lepidyon b'ni, and he spells out that it has the value of 5 slime for the Pidyon Aben, so then b'noi padoi, then the pidyon will take effect. It's good for Pidyon Aben. Okay, so the question is, what's the pshat here in this Braisa? What's the difference between the beginning and the end, the 2 cases that it said here? Hi Pidyon Echidami. When he's using whether a calf or a talis for the Pidyon Aben, what is it talking about here? If we're talking about a calf or a talis that does not have the value needed for Pidyon Aben, the 5 sloim, so kol kimine, could a person come along and say that it has the value of 5 sloim, and therefore he should be redeemed? How could he say such a thing if it doesn't have the value? It doesn't have. Elolav. So here Rav Yosef says, here you see what I said before. Afal gav the shavi. What we're speaking about over here is a calf or a garment that has the value of 5 sloim. But the difference is the kivin the loy kaitzi loy. In the reisha, he just says, here, I'm giving you this calf for Pidyon Aben, but he didn't get an expert to evaluate it properly that it should be set for that amount. So therefore it doesn't work. In the Sefer, where he said, and he evaluated it, that it's a set amount, that it's 5 sloim, therefore it works. So you see here the point that Rav Yosef said, that it has to be set, the Shavah Kesef has to be just like Kesef. Says the Gemara,
what do you actually do when you say
you have to have a baki that makes a shumma, and he sets that amount, that it should be known now that it has this set amount of 5 slime.
Why you have to do this? It's the same cow, the same...
And a chanami, but this is the halacha of Shavah Kesef that has to be doime to Kesef, even though it's the same, but it has to be set. And says the Gemara, loylam the loyshavi. No, the case over here really is that this calf or this talis that's being used does not have the value of 5 slime. So then how does it work in the Sefer when he says that I'm giving it to you for that value? The kagayin, the kabel kayin ilavei. Because the kayin says, for me this is so valuable, and therefore even though in the market value, it does not have that value of 5 slime, but for me it's so important, I want this calf, I want this garment, that for me it has the value of 5 slime. And he accepts it for that. And therefore the Pidyon Aben will take effect. That's what the Sefer is saying. Kihad Rav Kahana, and this is like a story of Rav Kahana, which was a kayin. So Shako Sudra Mibei Pidyon Aben. So he took a handkerchief from the father of the child for the Pidyon Aben, and in Omar he said, Ledidi Chazili Chamish Slime. For me, this handkerchief, even though it did not have the value of 5 slime, but he said, for me, it has the value of 5 slime. Ravashi, so Ravashi explains over here what Rav Kahana did. This is only said regarding Rav Kahana because Rav Kahana was a great person. And therefore he needed this sudra, this handkerchief. He used it as a yarmulke, as a head covering. So for him, it was something that was very valuable. So even though in the market it wasn't something that had that value, but for him, which he needs it, so it has that value for him. Right? In those times, the covering of the head was only for people that were people of stature, a Gavra Rabba, a great Talmud Chacham. So therefore for him, this was something that was needed. And therefore, when he says that for me it's worth 5 slayim, it's not just that he's saying it. It's really true. It's actually worth for him, this amount. Aval kula alma loy. But for anyone else, it does not work. If anyone is just going to go, any kain is going to come and accept something that clearly has no value, not for him and not for anyone, and he says that it's worth, so then it's like a mechila. It's not really worth that value for him. And the Gemara brings another example. Kihod mar baravashi zav and sudra mi'ime derabe mikubi. So Mar Baravashi bought a handkerchief from the mother of Rabbe from the city Kubi. Shavi Asara, its value was really only 10 coins, but he paid extra for it. He paid 13 because for him, he needs it for a head covering, so it has an extra value for it. Okay, going back to the halachas of Kidushin Kesef. Omer Rabbi Lazar says, a person comes and tells a woman, here, I'm giving you Kesef Kidushin, but how much is he being Mekadosh with? A money. A money is made up of 100 dinarim. Now, but the nasan law dinner, he's telling her that Hareya Mukadeshus li b'monezu, or he doesn't say the word zu, he says, I'm being Mekadosh with a money, but he only gives her a dinner. One dinner of that, again, the money is made up of 100 dinner, and he only gives her one dinner. Harezu Mekudeshes, so she'll be Mekudeshes with this one dinner that he gave her, the Yashlim, and then he's going to have to be Mashlim the rest later. My time, and what's the reason? Because Kivin the Amalam mana. Since he tells her that he's being Mekadesher with one mana, V'yav la dinner, and he's only giving her a dinner, so what is this person doing here? Command the Amalam menastami. What we understand over here, what he's doing is, it's as if he's telling her, I'm being Mekadesh you really just with a dinner, or really just with a pruta. Al menas, that I'll give you the rest of the money to the value of a mana. But not that the Kidushin itself cannot take effect unless he gives her the money. Ravuna said in the name of Rav, the term al-menas means that when you fulfill the condition, so then retroactively she's really Mekudeshes right from the beginning when he gave her that one dinner. So therefore here, when he gives her the dinner, she's really Mekudeshes right away, and he just has to be mashlim the rest of the money that he said he would give later. So this is like a tonight. That's how most Rishonim, the Mefarshim, learned in this Gemara. It's a tonight. Meisvei, so the Gemara asks on this halacha of Rabbi Lazar. It says in the Braise, Skatcheli b'moneh, this exact case, tells a woman, here I'm being Mekadesh you with a moneh, and then and then so he's giving her, like let's say for example, he tells the Isha, I'm being Mekadesh you with $100, and then he starts counting $1 bill, another dollar bill. He's Mainu v'hoilech, he's giving her one after the other. So as he's counting and giving one dinner, another dinner, and one of them, either the husband or the wife, want to retract from this Kidushin, until the very last dinner that you give to make up to the money, so then either one of them can retract from this Kidushin. So what do we see clearly over here? That she's not Mukadeshes till she gets that full amount of the money. Not like Rabbi Lazar says that she's Mukadeshes right away, and then you just have to give the money later. Answers the Gemara, over here, what is the case? The Omar b'moneh zu. Over here he added the word zu. He said, when he adds the word zu, moneh zu means that he's giving her this money right now. And without the money, there's no Kiddushin. But you can't answer it this way, because Hamid is Seife, b'moneh zu. If you look there in the Seife of this Braise, the Seife speaks about a case where he said moneh zu, this money. So the Reisha that we just quoted is b'moneh stam. Must be speaking about when he just said, I'm being Mekadesh you with a moneh, and he didn't say the word zu. The Gemara here quotes the Seife. The Katani Seife, what does it say in the Seife? Amallah is katshili b'moneh zu. He uses the term zu. And v'nimtza moneh chasadina, and he gives her a moneh, and he's giving it to her in a bunch of dinarim. And it's not just, he's not just giving her one moneh, but a bunch of dinarim that he's giving her. And it's chasadina. And it comes out, she counts it, it's not 100 dinarim, it's 99. Or there's a copper dinner in there, there's not a silver dinner, which makes up the money, but one of the coins is not a good coin. It's only copper. So then she will not be Mekadeshes. Dinner ra, if there's a dinner which is not good quality, and the Gemara will soon explain what it means it's not good quality, harezu mukadeshes, so then she is mukadeshes, but v'yachlef, he has to exchange for her this dinner that it should be a good coin. So what do you see over here? The Sefer is speaking about a case where he specified zu, that I'm being Mekadesh with the mana zu, and therefore if it's missing one of them, she won't be Mekadeshes. So it seems like the Reisha is speaking about when he just said b'mana, without the word zu. And even there it said that either one, the woman or the man, can retract from this until the last moment when he gives the last dinner. And says the Gemara, Loi, this is not a question. Reisha v'Sefer the Oma b'mana zu. The Reisha and the Sefer of the Braisa is speaking about where the man tells to the woman, I'm being Mekadeshu b'mana zu, and therefore she won't be Mekadesh till the last dinner. But a Perusha come Mefarish. The way to understand this Braisa is, the Sefer is not a different case than the Reisha. The Sefer is coming to explain the Reisha. And the explanation is that the Reisha says that until he gives her the last dinner, if any one of them want to retract, they can. And Keitzat, so then the Sefer is spelling out, how is this? This is only if he says manazu. And then you have to give every single dinner, and if there's one missing, then she's not going to be Mukadeshes. So the Reisha and the Sefer is only talking about manazu. Now the Gemara proves this. It's logical to say that they're both talking about this case of manazu, because the if the reisha is a case where the man says to the woman, here, I'm being mekadesh you just with a mana, without adding the word zu. So hashta b'mana stam le'ave kiddushi. So if the reisha tells you this chiddush, that even if he just says mana, nevertheless she won't be mekadeshes until she gets the actual full mana, so b'mana zu mi boya. So then what's the Sefer saying? The Sefer is saying if he adds the word zu, that she won't be Mekadeshes until he gives her the full mana, for sure. If you said in the Reisha, even by plain mana, she won't be Mekadeshes until she gets the whole thing, it's understood that when she says zu as well, that for sure it'll be the halacha this way. So therefore it must be that the Reisha and the Sefer are both speaking about mana zu, but if he didn't say the word zu, so then the halacha will be like Rabbi Elazar says. Even if he didn't give her the full mana, she'll be Mekadeshes. But the Gemara says this is not a raya. This is the pshat and the praisa, because imishum hala area. This is not a proof, because we have sometimes the concept as follows: Tana Sefer legluye reisha. The Tana specifies in the Sefer the case of manazu in order to reveal to you what was his intention in the reisha of this praisa. Shaloi Taimar, you shouldn't say reisha b'manazu. When you read the reisha, you would think that maybe the reisha means only when he said the word zu, then she's not mukadeshes until the last moment when he gives the whole mana. Alva b'manastam, have a Kidushin, you would think that if he just says manastam, then she could be Mekadeshes without giving her the last dinner. Tanis Sefer b'manazu, so therefore the Sefer says the case of manazu, miklal the reisha b'manastam. So from this you'll understand that the reisha is telling you that even by manastam, that she still won't be Mekadeshes until he actually gives her the last dinner. So therefore there's no raya. You can learn this braisa in two ways. It's not a question on Rabbi Elazar, but there's also no raya that the whole entire braisa is talking about manazu. Now the Gemara brings another pshat in this braisa. Ravashi says, Moine v'haylech shani. Over here, if you look into the words of the braisa says the man was counting. He was counting one dinner, another dinner. This is different than what Rabbi Elazar was talking about. What was the case of Rabbi Elazar? He tells a woman here, you should be Mekadeshes to me with a mana. And then he gives her a dinner. So imagine a person says, hey, I'm being Mekadesh with $100, and he gives a $1 bill. So it's obvious that what he meant to say is that the Kidushin should take effect with the dollar bill, and the rest I'll give you later. But over here, he tells her he's being Mekadesh with $100, and he starts counting 1, 2, 3. So the Daita Akula over here, because she sees he's counting the money for her right now, so she's thinking that she should only be Mekadeshes with getting this full money, as she sees she's counting it for him. So therefore, in this case, Rabbi Elazar would agree she's not Mekadeshes until she gets the full amount. Okay, now going back to the pshat of the Braisa that was quoted, what's going on over here? It said that if she discovers that there's a dinner nechoshes here, copper dinner, not a silver dinner, so then she's not Mekadeshes. What's the case here? If she saw when she's counting the money and she's giving him the dinarim, that one of them was copper, so hasavra v'kivla. She saw, she realized this, and she accepted it. So shouldn't she be Mekadeshes? And says the Gemara, he's giving to her this money. This is at night and it's dark and she doesn't notice what she's giving him, or what he's giving her. That is, or that while he gave it to her, he gave it to her like together with other coins, and she didn't notice it. And then later on, she looks it over in between the coins, and she sees that there's a copper coin there. But b'shas ma'aser, she didn't realize. Another case in the Braisa was that he gave her a coin which is a bad quality. What does this mean? If this is a coin that's not in circulation anymore, it can't be used anymore. In those times when the picture on the coin got completely erased, it couldn't be used anymore. So then haina dinashal nechayshis. It's basically the same like dinashal nechayshis, meaning that it has no value. So therefore she's missing all the dinarim to make up the amount of a mana. Rav Papa says that's not what it means. There's a certain coin that it could be used in circulation, but really it's not a proper coin that could be used, but some people accept it, so therefore she'll be mukadeshes, but you have to give her, in order that it should be 100% a proper Kidushin, you have to give her afterwards, exchange it for a proper dinner. Amar Rav Nachman, another halacha regarding Kiddushi Kesef. Amar hiskat shili b'mana. He tells a woman here, I'm being mekadesh you with a mana, but he doesn't give her the money. V'hiniach lo mashkin alel. He tells her, I don't have the money right now. Here, I'm giving you a collateral for this until I'll give you that mana that I'm being mekadesh you with. Einim mekadeshes. The Kidushin will not take effect. Why? Mana enkan, mashkin enkan. The actual mana that he said he's giving her, he didn't give her. So therefore, the mashkin that he gave her is also not worth anything. And you have to be mekadesh isha with actual kesef. But over here, he didn't give her any kesef. He's giving her a mashkin in the place of this kesef. So therefore, the Kidushin doesn't take effect. This is a machlokes Rishonim how to learn this Gemara. Some Rishonim say the point that the Gemara is saying is that by telling someone that you're going to give them money, and you don't give them the money, you just give them a mashkin instead. Here, take my watch and hold it until I'll give you the money. You don't have any obligation actually to give. You can come back to the person later and say, give me back my watch, and you don't have any hischayvus. You have no obligation to give that money. So over here, when a person tells a woman, I'm going to give you this money, and he gives her a collateral instead, it doesn't really obligate him to give the money. So therefore, he gave nothing. Other Rishonim say, even if he does actually have the obligation to give it, because he said, I'm going to give you the money, and instead he gave a collateral, he has the obligation to give the money, but there was no actual kesef that he gave. To be mekadesh or isha, and as we'll see soon also regarding kinyanim, the kinyan has to be with actual kesef, not with a mashkin, which is just a collateral which you can't even keep b'chlal. So the money that's given as a matana, when you give the kesef to keep, is not here, and the mashkin is just a collateral. So there's no kinyan or kiddushin that can take effect through this mashkin. Again, doesn't matter. The idea of the mashkin is, even if it's money, but the mashkin is something that you're taking back. If he actually has the money, and he says he's giving the money, why would he say it's just a mashkin? Okay, but he's not keeping it, so it doesn't take effect. So Rav asks Rav Nachman, it says clearly in a Braisa, Kitcha b'mashkin mukadeshes. If he's mekadesha with a mashkin, she is mukadeshes. Answers the Gemara, it's a different case. Hasam b'mashkin da'achedim. Over there, the mashkin is from someone else, meaning that this man lent money to someone, and this man has now a mashkin that borrower gave him to hold on to for the loan. And what this man is basically doing is, he's giving this mashkin to the woman and saying, I'm giving you the rights to collect the loan through this mashkin. So now he's being the kaddish with something of value, that she'll now be able to take possession of this loan to collect it through this mashkin. Now, even though you may ask, but the mashkin itself doesn't actually belong to the lender when he gets that collateral from the borrowers. The Gemara says that actually does. To some extent, he has a kinyan on it. Rabbi Yitzchak said, how do I know that a lender, when he gets a collateral from the borrower, so he has a kinyan, he has a certain rights of ownership in this mashkin? Because the pasuk says that when you have a mashkin, so if it's an item that the borrower has to use to go to sleep with at night, so you have to give it back to him. And the pasuk says, this will be a tzedakah if you give it back to him. Now, if the lender, when he gets this mashkin, has no kinyan over it, it's not his, so then tzedakah minayin. Why is the pasuk referring to it as a tzedakah? When you get a collateral, you have a certain kinyan over it. And because you have a kinyan, when you give it back to the borrower, it's called a tzedakah. So therefore over here, when this man takes this mashkin that he has a kinyan over it and gives it as a Kidushin to an isha, so then it's a Kidushin. He's giving us something of his. It shall be Mekudeshes. The children of Rav Huna bar Oven, Zavu Ahi Amse, they acquired this maid, Bepriti, And they said they're going to, with the condition that they're paying for a certain prutis. Lahav about that, but they didn't have the prutis to pay for this. So instead they said, here, we're going to give you this piece of silver until we get the money to pay you for acquiring you. But l'saif, in the end, what happened was, yakir amsa, now her price, her value went up, and now she demands and says, I'm not ready to be acquired with that. Those prutis that you said you're going to give me, you have to pay me more. So Aslakame the Rabami, they came to Rabami to ask him, was she already acquired before? And the price that was said before is set, or they have to pay a new price. So Amalu, he said to them the same point we said before, Priti enkan, the money you said you're going to give her is not here, so you didn't give her anything. And nascha enkan. So therefore, the nascha that you gave, this piece of silver is also valid, nothing. It didn't create any kinyan, because the nascha was just as a mashkin, which you're taking back. So there's no kinyan over here at all. Tana Rabbana, we learned in the Braisa another halacha regarding Kidushin Kesef. He tells her, Eskacheli b'mana, be mekudesh to me with this mana, not lasa, she takes the mana, v'zarkasa liyam. She takes it from the man, and she throws it into the water, or into the fire, or into anything else that destroys the money immediately. So she's not Mekadeshes because it's clear that she didn't take the money with the consent to be married. Adarabah, she took it and threw it away. So the Gemara is medaiken this. It says over here she threw it and she destroyed it. So therefore she's not Mekadeshes. So it sounds like, but if she would have thrown the money back to him, so then have a Kidushin, then she would be married. It says only if she destroyed the money, she's not married. But if she threw it back to him, she is married. But why? If she throws the money back to him, isn't she telling the man, here, take your money, I don't want to be married to you? Says the Gemara, that's not how you have to understand this Braisa. This Braisa is saying a bigger Chiddush. Needless to say, if she threw the money back to him, the loyav a Kidushin, obviously it's not a Kidushin, because it's clear she's saying, I don't want this. If she took this money and then she throws it into the water, or lower into a fire. So aim over here, I should say, what happens over here when she destroyed this money? She's going to have to pay him back. She took money from a person and she just destroyed it. She'll have to pay him back. So maybe I should say, Kidushi Kaddish Nafsha. Really, she is consenting here to this marriage, and therefore the money is hers. She can do with it whatever she wants. She can destroy it. She won't have to pay him back. So why is she throwing it into the fire or into the water? It seems like she's trying to reject this over here. No, maybe we would say, Savra ivdikalahai gavri raschanahu olai. What she's doing is, she wants to, right in the beginning, check out her husband to see, is he going to get angry at her or not? Is he going to tolerate her behavior or not? But the very fact that she accepted it and didn't throw it back to him, and not only that, she destroyed it, which will now make her chayiv to pay back, shows that it is a Kiddushin. So therefore, Kamash Malon, the Bryce is saying, no, the fact that she threw it away, we say that it means that she doesn't want it. It's not a Kiddushin. If a man says to the woman here, you should be Mekadeshes to me with a monet, and that she says, Tnom la'abba lavicha, give it to my father, give it to your father. Ain't a Mekadeshes, she's not Mekadeshes. She's saying, give it away. But if she says, al menas she yikablum li, if she says, okay, she takes it, and she says, on the condition that my father or your father will accept it for me, so then Mekadeshes. So that's just a condition. So she's accepting it, and she'll be Mekadeshes. So the Gemara here explains, the Braisa said two scenarios. She said, give it to my father, and she said, give it to your father. Tana Abba, the Braisa says the case of give it to my father, to tell you the extent of the halacha of the Reisha, that even if she says, give it to my father, she will not be Mekadeshes if she's not accepting it herself. And Tana Avicha, and then in the Sefer it says, give it to your father, even though she's not as close to his father, to the man's father, as her own father, the Sefer, to let you know the extent of the halacha of the Sefer, that if it's a condition, so then if she says, give it to your father, she'll be Mekadeshes. The husband's father could accept it in her place with a condition. Now it says in the Vaita, the Braisa says, Eskachili b'mana. The man said to the woman, here, take this money, and what did she say? Tnam leploini, give this money to someone else. Ein Mekadeshes, she's not Mekadeshes. But if she says, al menas she yikablum li, that it is a condition that someone else is going to accept the money for me, so then Mekadeshes, she will be Mekadeshes. Says the Gemara, the Braisa had to teach here the case when she said, give this money to Pliny, and the case when the Braisa says, give it to my father or to your father. Why? If the Braisa would say the case of Abba Vavicha, over there, maybe the condition that she says that my father, your father receives it, it'll be a condition. Why? These are people that are close to her. This is her father or future father-in-law. So therefore, this is a condition that they will accept the Kidushin for her. Savra avdan lishlichusai. So when she says this, the way we interpret what she means to say is they're taking it instead of me in my shlichus. I will play any lie. If she says give it to so and so, so then it sounds like she's just rejecting it. She's throwing it away. So I would say maybe there it's not a Kidushin. On the other hand, Viashmin and Pliny, if we would say the case of Pliny, so I would say, over here I would say, if she just says, give it to so-and-so, it's not a Kiddushin because she's throwing it away. Because this is not someone she has any connection to, so therefore, she doesn't want you to give it as a gift to that person. She's just rejecting it. But if she says, give it to my father or your father, then these are people that are close to her. So over here, even without specifying that it's a condition, so maybe she means that she wants to give it as a gift to them. Therefore, the Braisa says that if she does not spell it out as a Tanai, she will not be Mekudeshes. Tana Rabbana, we learned another halacha, Eskacheli b'mana. The man says here, be Mekudeshes to me with this mana, Tunam al Gabisela. And the woman says here, put it on this rock here. Ain't a Mekudeshes. She's not Mekudeshes. She's rejecting it. But if it's a rock which is in her property, Mekudeshes, so then she's Mekudeshes because the chotzer, her property, is kainit for herself. Rav Bevi asks the Shaila, what's if a selah shal shneim? What if it's a rock that belongs to both of them? Mahu, could she be kainit over there? So here it's not so clear exactly what the Gemara the Shaila is. The Mefarshim explained the Shaila according to Rashi. Do I say that if it belongs to both of them, it's not her chotzer? She can't be. It's not her own chotzer. It's together partnership with this man, so she can't be kainit. Or do I say that the man probably gives her the space? He lends her that space for the Kidushin to take effect, and she will be mekudeshes. Teiku. This remains unresolved. Another case is skatcheli bekikar. The man says to the wife, "Here, be mekudeshes to me here with this loaf of bread." And the woman says, "Tno lekelev, give it to the dog." Ain't a mekudeshes. She's not accepting it. She's saying, "Give it to the dog." She's not mekudeshes. V'maya kelev shala. But if it's her dog, mekudeshes, then she will be married. By Rav Mari asks the Shaila, "Kelev ratzachrea." What's if this is a dog that was chasing her? So mahu. And now the dog is chasing her, and the man comes and says to her, "Here, be mekudeshes to me with this loaf of bread," while the dog is chasing her. And what does she say? Give it to the dog. Mahu. What's the halacha now? Do I say Bahuda the kamatzli nafsha mine gomra mekayel nafsha because she's being saved by this man giving this loaf of bread to the dog, so he just saved her from the dog, so therefore she has a hana of this, she's mekudeshes with this hana that she got. Or perhaps she could say to the man, when I told you give the bread to the dog, that wasn't me saying that I consent to this marriage. You're obligated to save my life from this dog. The dog is chasing her. He's telling her, what are you making me crazy not to be married to you with the loaf of bread? Don't you see there's a dog chasing me? Give the bread to the dog. So take it. Over here, this is not clear whether this is a consent for marriage or not. Okay, the last case for today is Kachili Bekikar. The man says, be mekudeshes to me with this loaf of bread. Tanei Olani. And she says to him, here, give it to this poor individual. Ain't a mekudeshes. She's not mekudeshes. She's not accepting it. Now that's a fila ani hasama chala. This is even if it's a poor person that she supports. My time. Why? Because she could say to the man, just like I have the mitzvah to support this man, to mitzvah tzedakah, you have the same mitzvah as well. So therefore I told you to give it to him, and it's not an union of Kidushin b'chlal.